Hi everyone, welcome to the first comparison video in the channel. This time we're going to be testing a new 12th gen CPU from Intel. This is the i9 12900K. So this new generation had some issues on their launch with Windows 10 because the new scheduler was mainly optimized for Windows 11. So what we are going to try to do today is to see if these issues are still present after the latest Windows 10 updates, and if you should still update to Windows 11 if you have some of these new 12 gen CPUs. So the components we are going to be using for this test include an Gigabyte RTX 3080 Vision GPU. For motherboard we have an MSI C690 Carbon Wi-Fi. For RAM, we have a Corsair Dominator Platinum of 32 gigs, DDR5 at 5200 MHz. For storage, we have an NVMe from Samsung, the 970 EVO Plus. For power supply, we have a Corsair RM1000X of 1000 watts. And of course, our Intel i9 12900K that we will be cooling with a Kraken C63. So first we have the Crystal Disk Mark test, in which we can see if there are differences in performance in terms of reading and writing in the storage unit. And what we observe is that in the reading part, the sequential test of 1 megabyte blocks, when it's a single task, Windows 11 has an increase of 20% compared to Windows 10. But in the same test, when there's a task also of 1 megabyte blocks, the performance is practically the same. Regarding the random reading of 4 kilobyte blocks, we see a similar behavior where there's a single task. Windows 11 has an increase of 26%, and when there are 32 tasks, the difference in performance is too small to be even considered. Now on the writing side, the sequential test, we have the same scenario once again. When one task is used, improves by 26% in Windows 11, and when there are 8 tasks, the same performance is achieved in both Windows versions. And to finish, the random write test also shows something similar, but here Windows 11 only improves a little more than 3% when it's one task, and when there are 32 tasks, the performance is the same in both versions. Now we go to the 7-zip test for compression and decompression, and here we can see that the difference remains within the margin of error around 1%, but being that 1% in favor of Windows 10. In the Cinebench test, we can see small loss in Windows 11 with respect to Windows 10, but they are quite small, approximately 3% in single core and 1% in multi-core. Moving on to Blender, we can see that Windows 11 has a small loss in just 1% in the CPU test and an increase of 4.7% in the CUDA test, while the NVIDIA Optics test remains the same in Windows 10 and Windows 11. Now, something interesting starts to happen when we see the V-Ray test results, and although the results for the CPU test remain practically the same, if we see the CUDA and RTX test, we can notice that something's wrong with Windows 10, since Windows 11 have a 170% performance increase for the CUDA test and a 113% performance increase for the RTX test. Now, starting with the gaming benchmarks, we have Civilization 6. In the graphic test, we can see that Windows 11 seems to be 1.4% faster than Windows 10 if we see the average frame time. But at the same time, if we saw the 1% low, we can see a loss of 4.5% in Windows 11 against Windows 10. Now moving to the AI test for the CPU, we see that Windows 11 is 6.6% faster than Windows 10. In Metro Exodus, we have an interesting scenario where running the test in 4K ultra quality, we can see a considerable increase in Windows 11 with a gain of 57% in the average frame per second and a 130% increase in the 1% low. But now in the test in 1080p and medium quality, the difference between Windows 11 and Windows 10 in average frames per second is pretty much the same, and in 1% low the difference is just about 16%. In Rainbow Six Siege, in the test at 4K ultra quality with DLSS activated in the quality option, we notice practically the same performance in the average frame per second, although at 1% low we see a small improvement of 7% in Windows 11. And in 4K ultra quality, but without using DLSS, we see a small improvement in Windows 11 of 3.6% in the average frames per second and 6% improvement in the 1% low. Now going to the test in 1080p medium quality. Without DLSS, we have a bigger difference here since Windows 11 has a performance gain of 20% in the average frame per second and 32% in the 1% low. Something interesting that we can see in Rainbow Six Siege is that if we analyze the time that it's taking to respond to the CPU and GPU, in the 4K test, it seems that the processor is taking longer to respond in Windows 11, being like 36% slower and still having a general performance increase. But in the test at 1080p, the processor responds faster in Windows 11 by 15%. This may be due to the optimization for the scheduler in Windows 11, since it looks like it's using better the CPU, getting quicker response when it's needed, like in the case of the 1080p test, and not forcing the CPU when it's not necessary, like in the test from the 4K test. In Horizon Zero Dawn at 4K ultimate quality, Windows 11 see a small improvement of almost 4% in the average frames per second. But if we look at the 1% low, we see something strange. And that's because it's showing only 14 frames per second. And with this, Windows 11 will be 68% slower than Windows 10 in the 1% low. But if we saw the 1% low for the CPU part, we see a considerable improvement of almost 17% against Windows 10. So this may be due to a bug on the benchmark or something, but this also can be repeated in the test at 1080p. Now in 1080p original quality, we again see performance improvement in Windows 11 of almost 3% in average frame per second, but again we see the 1% low with only 30 frames per second. And with this, Windows 11 loses like 67% of the performance against Windows 10 for the 1% low. This situation is very rare since the 1% low on both CPU and GPU are slightly better in Windows 11, but for some reason the general performance for the 1% low is more low than the CPU and GPU by itself. So this could be due to a bug in something like the ones that we saw with the Nuvo or something like that when these processors were first launched, and hopefully it won't take long to be fixed. Okay, so now just before the conclusions, another detail that I want to comment is that I also wanted to try with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but I couldn't run it on Windows 10. So in case you didn't know, there was a list of games with problems in the 12th generation launch published by Intel, but these games should be all working fine by now, but I couldn't run Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm not sure if I'm missing some patch or something, but I try looking in the Windows Update there to see if I was missing something, but it showed that I was up to date, that I had all the updates recently, so I'm not sure what's happening there, but just another detail to consider if you are still having issues with Windows 10. And now, just to finish, some comments is that we are seeing some considerable losses in Windows 10 compared with Windows 11 in this 12th generation. So basically the answer if you should update to Windows 11 is yes, because if you see some things like the benchmarks in V-Ray or the benchmarks for Metro Exodus, you could see a big loss in performance there. So even if you are seeing some little issues in Windows 11, like in Horizon Zero Dawn, the 1% low getting too much low compared to Windows 10, I think that these small bugs are more easily going to be fixed in Windows 11 than the big ones like Metro or V-Ray in Windows 10. So just to summarize this, I think the performance is sometimes a little better in Windows 10, sometimes a little better in Windows 11, but there are some things that are losing a lot of performance in Windows 10. So I think that even after the latest updates of Windows 10, you still should update to Windows 11 if you have a 12th generation Intel CPU. So I think that's it. We are gonna be trying this benchmark, well, this kind of benchmarks also in Linux, since I have seen that it's also losing a lot of performance there, this 12th generation. So I'm having tests with the latest kernels. It should fix a lot of things. So I'm gonna be trying that also. So if you are interested, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. And we are also going to have some other tests for AMD and the new Intel and AMD processors that are right around the corner. So yeah, I think that's it for now, and we'll see you in the next video.